Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Nick Borenstein, the general manager of the Webby Awards. Really excited to be here to talk to all of you today on the internet about AI and its relationship to audio. We're really thrilled to be doing this in partnership with Podcast Movement. I will be doing a little presentation today, and at the end of that, I will be having a Q&A and a conversation with Dan Franks, president of Podcast Movement. Let's go ahead and jump in. I will go and share my screen. Great. So I hope everyone is great wherever you are in the world today. Again, I'm Nick Borenstein, the general manager of the Webby Awards, and I'm just really thrilled to be here presenting our Webby Talk for 2023 and 2024, focused on AI innovations. So what are the Webby Talks? We're traveling around the world to 12 cities in 8 countries, and we're delivering about 150 talks to the Webby community, basically speaking to the people, all of you who've joined us today, who are responsible for building the very best of the internet. A little bit about how we run our show today. I'll share a little bit about what we do at the Webby Awards, and then I'll dive into the presentation, which should take about 20 to 25 minutes. And then we'll open up the floor for Q&A at the end. And that's when I'll bring out Dan. So before I jump in, I did want to thank our sponsors. This year's Webby Talk series is presented by Canva, which, for those of you who don't know, is a global design platform and the design partner for the 28th Annual Webby Awards. I'll actually be presenting to you on Canva today. I really dig it. We also worked with Flourish, which is a team of data visualization experts at Canva. And thanks to the Flourish team, we're able to showcase dynamic survey results for the very first year. You'll see a bit more of those later. Also, a big thanks to YouGov, an international market research firm who we worked with to survey 2,000 consumers on how they feel about AI. This year, we also used Profiles, which is a tool to help build a portrait of your audience and their characteristics. So for example, we learned that ChatGPT users are more likely to lie about their height. We'll get into more insights from our survey and profiles later. But first, let's talk about the Webby Awards. The New York Times calls us the internet's highest honor. This slide actually used to say that we were the Oscars of the internet, but then we received a cease and desist from the Oscars, so we stopped doing that. But we knew we were doing something right. We've honored excellence across the internet for 28 years, and Podcast Movement has actually been a trusted partner of ours for several years, especially as we've grown our podcasting categories. So each year we review work by the best creatives and teams around the world. Last year, we received nearly 14,000 entries from 70 countries, and that work is judged by the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences, also known as IADIS. IADIS includes over 3,000 leaders who are experts in the types of digital work we honor. Here's just an example of a few of those wonderful people. And in May, we celebrate winners at the Webby Award Show. So for those of you that might be new to the Webbies, all of our winners, regardless of fame, get a 5-word acceptance speech. It's kind of our thing. Let me share a little bit of our favorites from this year.
Tonight's show has been nominated for 4 Webby Awards.
So this year's Webby winners were announced.
Arun Hodakot.
Yeah! In the Webby Awards. And you know what?
I'm
no
gonna
hard
vote
feelings.
for you.
I'm going to vote for
voting
me
you.
too.
Come on, Webby! Let's go!
The 27th Annual Webby Awards. Your host, Roy Wood Jr.
All speeches must only be 5 words long.
I want to offer a huge congratulations to our winners tonight. Every one of you has made us feel something this year.
All there is love.
Toby Wigway is a real thing. A real one.
It's my honor to present Shigetaka Kurita, the man who created emojis with this 2023 Webby Lifetime Achievement Award. First ever 5 emoji speech.
Creators, this belongs to you.
Find a rule to break.
This is only the beginning.
All the Iranian people want to do is to live freely without fear of being arrested or killed simply for existing. Zan zendegi azadi, marg bar dictator.
You are smart. Trust yourself.
Toda Kadbi.
Listen and love, love, love. Bye!
Sharon Horgan, the Webby Best Actress.
Pay writers what they deserve.
The Webby Artist of the Year award goes to SZA. The internet scares me.
Thanks.
Tracy Ellis Ross, Webby Special Achievement Award.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Thank you, Webbies. That was fun.
So that's the Webby Awards. If you have any questions about categories, dates, whatever, please let me know after the talk. We're really excited with our podcasting categories, and we'd love to have you enter. I'm also happy to hang out a little bit after if anyone has questions. Just a final reminder, our final deadline, which is our extended entry deadline, is February 9th. So again, if you're considering submitting, please get it in before that date. So on to the Webby Talks, where we look forward and think about how people are using technology in new ways. Every year, the Webby team and I spend time getting together and thinking about the internet. After all, we know quite a bit about the internet. We've seen the internet change rapidly for 28 years of the Webbies. So from Smarter Child to ChatGPT, we've seen it all. But this year, when we thought about what's happening online, we kept coming back to this idea of acceleration. It's all so fast, and the new tools seem to pop up at a pace we've never seen before. And at the core of it all, artificial intelligence. AI is everywhere. It's so fast, and it's impacting nearly every industry. Not only was it at the core of most of the ideas we brought to the table, but I use it. I use it at work. ChatGPT is incredibly helpful with proofreading my emails. I find it great for giving me that extra bout of confidence with comma placement. At home, I also use it in my creative pursuits. I'm also a filmmaker and a producer, and when I've needed to put together decks or creative materials, I found text-to-image AI programs like Midjourney to be incredibly helpful in image ideation and creating something that's unthinkable and make it thinkable. So for example, I like to think about if I wanted to make a pitch deck for something similar to this idea, right? This idea of really talented makers and internet professionals trying to develop an idea, and I'm presenting to you all, but I would like all of you to be drag queens. I can do that using AI. Within a few seconds, I can develop a beautiful image that shows this presentation and this idea that I'm looking to develop. Other creatives are also aware of the power that AI has as well.
So, Dinesh thinks this is you?
Correct. He's been messaging with it all day and he has no idea it's an AI.
Well, we fooled a human. I guess we just passed the Turing test.
Almost a human.
Fucking Guilfoyle. We're friends.
So this is from HBO Silicon Valley, which we all love. Another example of great, hilarious opportunities to create an AI. But there's also candidly a dark side that's been swirling around, causing headlines. AI is coming for our jobs. In fact, almost 40% of US consumers think that using AI means less jobs for people and that it could replace the entire film and television industry. This is something that I was particularly mindful about as a filmmaker watching the strikes of the WGA and the SAG last year. There are big issues with bias and discrimination. There's issues of attribution. We're concerned that AI is trying to off us by suggesting killer recipes, that AI is coming to reincarnate your parents and kill your kids. Even the White House is getting involved in drafting an AI Bill of Rights. And people will welcome this. YouGov did some polling around AI recently and found that 78% of Americans want AI to be much or somewhat more regulated to stop the robots from taking over, because when they do, we'll have reached the singularity. It's overwhelming. I know, trust me, you're not alone. Our research with YouGov shows that 41% of people feel AI is innovating too quickly. And sometimes I feel like one of those 41%. But at the same time, there's still reason to be optimistic. Respondents who work in these industries are actually really excited about the impact AI can have. More than half of the people who worked in media, entertainment, and tech are excited. And what's clear is that this is a game-changing moment, especially for all of you who've joined us today, people who are shaping and creating internet culture. It's an opportunity to accelerate with technology that's constantly changing. So for this talk, I think it's important to mention, we aren't going to dive into all of the biases and concerns around AI, although we definitely think we should be making this tech responsible and are open to those conversations. For this conversation, we'll be focused more on the new innovations taking place and how they can shape your work. So that brings us to our talk, The Race to Outpace, a curated dive into the breakneck speed of AI innovations, where we share insights on how to keep pace in this new era of the internet. So we have three intentions for this talk. First is to inspire you with noteworthy innovations that have quickly popped up. Second is to share how 2,000 consumers feel about AI today via our YouGov survey. And to share 4 opportunity areas where you can incorporate AI into your own work with case studies. So to get into it, headlines will make you think AI is a new phenomenon. AI will be everywhere soon. But in reality, it's actually been around for a long time and it's already integrated into our lives. Siri has been around since 2011, Tap to Pay since 2013. We've relied on the increased security of Face ID and the deep learning assisted accuracy of Google Maps since 2017. And believe it or not, these experiences are powered in part by artificial intelligence. But our research shows that consumers have a skewed perception of this. People just don't really understand how ubiquitous AI is. Almost half of respondents said that they don't use AI-powered tools in daily life. But when you look at that number compared with the technology they're actually using, there's a real skewed perception of this. 84% of our respondents use Google Search, but 38% are unaware it uses AI. Similarly, 70% of our respondents use tools like navigation apps, but 54% don't know map applications use AI. These are some pretty big discrepancies, right? And it just shows that AI innovations aren't just moving quickly, they're already here. What is new, however, and I think this is important, is the use of generative AI. AI generating text, images, or other media, that's leading the way. That's really the booming market here. And last year, more than $2 billion US was invested in the space. This surge has led to everything from game-changing products to also just fun experiments using AI. I wanted to share a few of them with you. First is something called excuses.ai. This is a chatbot that outputs classic excuses to bail you out of work or things you don't want to do. In this example, you can see they were offered the classic, my elderly neighbor has fallen and I have to take care of her, so I can't work. There's Bitmagic, which is an early access platform which offers generative AI for gaming. So you can see it literally lets you imagine anything and spin it into a game world within seconds. So he typed in he wants a dog, and look what it is, a dog. AI is also optimizing how we date. Riz is an AI-powered dating app which generates prompts to help you break the ice, like this incredible response of, call me boo, I'm ready to woo. Flirting has now become an AI art. It's also changing who we date. Human or bot, we don't judge. Replica lets anyone create AI companions to be used platonically or romantically. And while you may have preconceived notions about who may be using this, half of the people using Replica are actually women. They are flocking to the platform for the promise of safe relationships they can control. And it might seem a bit foreign to some of us or reminiscent of the film Her, but YouGov did some polling around friendship, and it turns out nearly half of people think AI friends are better than IRL friends or in real life friends. So maybe some of you can relate, those of you who might be spending a little bit of extra time talking or hanging out with Siri or Alexa. AI has also entered the preventative healthcare space. In Stockholm, you can get a full body scan for 180 euros with Neko Health. This was founded by Spotify co-creator Daniel Ek. And also in the US, which is where I'm coming to you from, a company called Ezra is doing the same, focusing on full body scans for early cancer detection. It's all integrating into our lives so quickly that I'm thinking probably by next year at the next Webby Talks, we'll probably join from our Apple Vision headsets. But to level set, AI is being applied in vastly different ways. And while there are very valid conversations and concerns around AI, there are many meaningful innovations. But today, we want to share a few ways that AI can be on its best behavior and provide value to your work. So that brings us to chapter 2. This is where you keep pace. We've identified 4 opportunity areas where we think AI can help and have the biggest impact. First is productivity, using new tools to sharpen your workflow. Second is personalization, helping you build personalized experiences for your audience. Third is imagination, leveraging tools to expand your creativity and output. And finally, social impact, the ultimate goal. We really think that to build purpose-driven products and solutions with AI is incredibly important, and really it's something we're all striving to do. So let's take a look at some examples of how all of this is happening now, starting with productivity. So AI can really help eliminate the tedium of your work so you can spend more time on creative thinking. So much so that a report by McKinsey estimates that 2/3 of tasks that occupy our time at work will be automated within 20 years. And we're close. Nearly half of full-time workers say that they use AI tools often, including 26% who say they use it very often. But what they're looking for is efficiency. 62% of respondents want AI tools to improve their productivity. We're all looking for magic button solutions. I know I am. And today there's a whole crop of magic buttons. We might know about Grammarly, which is something I have on my computer, which is a great AI tool that creates quick emails and can help check spelling. As you can see here, this is a little bit about how the interface works. It can kind of improve text and help shorten it to really increase your productivity. We love Descriptor Generate feature, which some of you might already be using in the audio space. For those of you who don't know, it fixes issues that occur during recording and are hard to fix during post. So if your guest has a brain freeze on mic and forgets a word or something simple, you can edit it really easily. Here, take a listen.
Oh my God, what do you call those things?
I actually decided that I would treat myself
an
and buy an
ice
pop.
Oh my God, what do you call those things?
An ice pop. I actually decided that I would treat myself and buy an ice pop.
So you might have heard there was a slight intonation in that and a bright issue. So listen to how they clean that up.
I actually decided that I would treat myself and buy an ice pop. I hadn't had one of those since I was in grade school.
So with one click, it generates new audio cells and helps to smooth out issues. I've produced several podcasts, and something like this is a major help when you're in post or you need to add a little tweak and don't want to bring in a guest or an actor back. It's really, really miraculous. There's also Clip Drop, which removes objects from images pretty seamlessly. Photoshop with Adobe's background removal tool has been around for years. Adobe also premiered new AI-powered audio editing with Premiere Pro. So now, like Descript, you can clean up dialogue, but they also are being really helpful with tagging, using AI tools to identify and labels clips as dialogue, music, sound effects, or ambient noise. But AI is also entering other industries. PodSqueeze, another great example about how it's working in audio, is a product where you can generate content related to your podcast, including text summaries, timestamps, newsletters, tweets, social media posts. All you have to do is basically put in your podcast RSS link or upload the audio file. And from there, click generate, and AI will automatically create ancillary content. Mars has also built an AI that can adjust lip movement seamlessly to any language. This will be the norm for foreign language content before you know it, and we wanted to share an example from our friends at Netflix. I'm actually going to show you a clip twice. The first is the original dub, and the second utilizes Mars's AI.
Why'd you do that? What the hell did you expect, huh? Why go up and push that guy? You got lucky way in the back of the line. Must have forgotten how things are here. What if that guy ended up wasting our time on that one step like that criminal? Would you have done nothing? Why'd you do that? What the hell did you expect, huh? Why go up and push that guy? You got lucky way in the back of the line. Must have forgotten how things are here. What if that guy ended up wasting our time on that one step like that criminal?
So it's subtle, but pretty remarkable technology. Brands are also collaborating with AI to experiment with their campaigns. So basically by calling on artists who are already in this space. This summer, Malibu Rum & Aries, which is a London streetwear brand, used AI to produce a campaign for their co-branded clothing collection. Working with Omar Kareem, an AI artist, They used original photography as a base and fed Omar's AI assistant prompts on their desired lighting and mood with the goal of generating new imagery. And the end result is this really beautiful, hyper-realistic campaign asset. This campaign is a great example of using AI to experiment with new production processes and leverage artists who are already in this space. It also gives brands the ability to generate a lot of really high-quality content for their campaign in a short amount of time. And who doesn't want great creative assets delivered with very minimal cost and input of time? And to see how this is working across other industries, here's an example of the opportunity to increase scale of projects using AI. Icon is a construction technologies company, and they're using machine learning to build 3D printed homes in a total of 24 hours. This results in faster, more sustainable builds that require less materials. Icon has already scaled this tool to build affordable housing in Austin, Texas. And while examples like this might feel like a far cry from our work in audio and podcasting, it's just another example of the incredible speed and scale that AI can unlock that was previously unavailable. So the second opportunity in creating more personalized experiences, and you can also connect directly with your audience. And this is something younger consumers are looking for. About 40% of respondents aged 18 to 34 are okay with companies using AI to create better personalization. Chatbots, which encompasses ChatGPT and other tools like it, have an ability to create personalized interactions. They've gained traction as a first step in creating a more personalized experience, especially for e-commerce. And it makes sense. They're doing really well in revenue. In 2022, the global chatbot market made nearly $5 billion in revenue, and that number continues to grow. And some brands have jumped into building out their own personalized e-commerce experiences using chatbots. Online fashion retailer Essence entered the space. Earlier this year, they lightly experimented with the tool by employing ChatGPT as a stylist on its Instagram account. So basically, they would, ask for recommendations on potential brands and outfit ideas that are carried on the Essence platform. Essence continued the success by integrating a plugin for ChatGPT Plus. And in reflecting on both of these examples, I was just thinking, a bot that selects your outfits. Sounds like oddly familiar. Right, Clueless. Thanks to AI, now we have the potential to build the closet of Cher Horowitz's or your dreams. But by using existing AI tools, these integrations are easier to make than ever for companies and clients because the barrier to enter is lower. It's pretty wild to think that the ChatGPT launched in 2022, and look where we are now. It's just been leaps and bounds. Publishers are also experimenting with personalization for brand activations. Sprite is known for authentically tapping into younger audiences. So to celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop, they partnered with Complex to marry 3 of Gen Z's current interests: generative art, personalization, and music. They launched this really interesting interactive chatbot that generated custom mixtape covers for users. The chatbot asked users questions like how they discover music, how hip hop makes them feel, what their dream album would be named, all to generate this really unique and custom mixtape art. Barbie was certainly the movie of the summer and continues to be an important part of culture even today. And if you followed the marketing for it, then you may have run into this next example. BarbieSelfie.ai. This was one of Mattel and Warner Brothers marketing efforts, and it was a selfie generator that was simple but highly effective. The program was built with Photo Room, which is an AI-based photo editing app known for removing backgrounds, and it also created auto-generated taglines for users. And this went viral, especially with younger audiences. Everyone, everywhere, all at once wanted to enter Barbie Land. Everyone from global celebrities to me. This Barbie is the GM of the Webby Awards, and I got in on it as well. And by the film's release in July, the generator was used 13 million times, and that number has continued to increase. Another great pull for diving into AI is the ability to expand your toolkits, creativity, and imagination. Pablo Picasso once said, "Everything you can imagine is real." And I think that really sums up this unique opportunity with AI to create something that was once unimaginable and inspires others through it. Even at this stage of early change, nearly 40% of people think that AI will have a positive impact on advertising and marketing. And we're seeing that people are already using these tools for creative production. About 53% of respondents who work in entertainment use AI tools. 46% of media and production professionals use AI tools. And, we're also seeing 47% of advertising and marketing professionals already using these tools. So let's take a look at some of the tools that help us create something new. In Canva's quest to bring AI tools to the masses, they've made the design process easier. Through a suite of magic tools, these tools help automate design, writing, presentations, and more. One tool in particular is Magic Edit, which is a text-to-image generator that enhances images. Here's actually a photo from this year's Webbies. We had Rafiki from The Lion King on Broadway come as a winner to the show. And my colleague Steve is having a crack at editing the picture. As you can see, he's highlighting the image, which is a Webby Award. He goes and basically says what image he wants to be created using AI. Here he's saying he wants a large pineapple because, of course, why don't you want to switch a Webby for a pineapple? And within seconds, really, you generate this really great image. And you can innovate and generate new images as well. This is one of my personal favorites. This is a film trailer for a film called Genesis. And what's unique about Genesis is actually this is a film that doesn't exist. This was created by German product designer named Nicholas Neubert. And the trailer was made using Midjourney and Runway, which are systems that can generate videos with text, images, and other video clips. I found this just incredible as a filmmaker. It only took Nicholas 7 hours to make this trailer. Normally, this process takes weeks or months between production, edit, post, and it's just miraculous. And I think this is a really nice example because I think it fits really tonally with the type of work and how AI can really enhance these types of tonal pieces. And to help other creatives experiment, Nicholas also shared this tutorial, which was listing his entire creative process and the text prompts he used on Twitter. So Google Lab sessions also explored how large language models can expand creativity. This past summer, they partnered with rapper Lupe Fiasco on TextFX, which is a suite of tools to enhance the creative process for writers. Lupe and Google worked together on 10 different tools powered by Google's Palm API to aid the creative process. I wanted to share one of them with you, which is called Scene. Take a look.
So this tool is called Scene. It generates sensory details about a scene. But let's just say a pizza shop. Click run. And there we go. First off top, you think of a pizza shop, we got the smell of tomato sauce and fresh dough, a cash register with a drawer that makes a satisfying ka-ching sound when it opens. This scene tool just gives you all this rich visual, audio, all these different flavors and pieces and parts that you probably wouldn't have thought about, you know? Great way to kind of create a really rich story or a really rich verse. You can pin any of this. It puts it into your pin box to kind of store it, make it really efficient for later. So yeah, that's Scene.
So I really like this example because I think it really heightens this idea that the point isn't to replace, but to help creatives play with language as a tool. We'll talk about this a little bit later when Dan joins us, but you may not need to rap or create this type of writing, but if you're trying to brainstorm a brief or develop a script, that this may help generate some ideas. And beyond media and production, AI is helping architects explore new possibilities. Last year, Manas Bhatia, who's an architect and designer, used Midjourney for new experiments. This particular project imagines apartments that live and breathe in redwood trees, and I think it's quite beautiful. But the ultimate promise of AI, we believe, is the ability to create a positive impact on our lives. And the good news is ChatGPT users are more optimistic about the state of the world. Another stat from our YouGov profiles. But it's not just them. 64% of respondents felt that AI can positively impact global problems. We wanted to know what issues people think AI can help solve. And we found that their top issues were education, public health, climate and sustainability, and food insecurities. So we thought we'd dive a bit deeper on the top three: climate, environment, and sustainability, education, and public health and safety. There really are a lot of potential ways to create purposeful products with AI. So let's take a look at some of those examples. I'll start with climate. AI can really help make low-lift, hard-hitting campaigns that help you call to action. For Earth Day, creative agency Fred and Freed teamed up with Fridays for Future, which is the youth climate strike movement sparked by Greta Thunberg, pictured here. Together, they released Earth is No Toy, and they used generative models to depict G20 leaders as kids. The climate urged leaders to act like adults and take the climate crisis seriously. We've also found that half of people already prefer to buy from companies that are socially and environmentally responsible. And there's some amazing AI work being done to help understand sustainability data. Brands like Vayu have helped retailers calculate their carbon emissions with machine learning. They do this by combining companies' data and automating carbon calculations using life cycle assessment data. They announced a partnership with Klarna to help consumers watch their own carbon footprint. Klarna launched this CO2e tracker, which lets shoppers track the environmental impact of their purchases. And the tool tracks emissions data during the life cycle of over 94 million products. So over 240,000 shoppers have been receiving product carbon data every month by visiting the tracker. AI is also being used considerably to improve the way that we respond with humanitarian action. GiveDirectly and Google are using AI to provide disaster relief to low-income communities. Previously, relief organizations used on-the-ground methods to target areas, and this could take a long time to deliver cash to disaster areas. They also ran the risk of giving aid to communities that were less affected. But with Google's mapping tool Delphi, they cross-reference aerial images of storm damage and poverty data and connect funds with those who need it most. So in 2022, they used it to give aid to nearly 3,500 Hurricane Ian victims across Puerto Rico and Florida in the US. Education is also a huge area for opportunity, particularly improving education for people that are neurodivergent. We've seen some really incredible examples in this space, including Inner Voice, which is an app to improve quality of life for those with communication challenges using video self-modeling. This particular example uses Microsoft Azure AI to work. And here's how it works. You take a picture of what you're looking at. Inner Voice's AI system will label the picture with text and describe it with speech. We actually have a really great video of people using it in real life. Check it out.
People have challenges communicating for many reasons. Babies learn to communicate by looking directly at their parent's face, and then they learn to imitate that. Babies with autism have big challenges in looking at faces, but digital faces engage them immediately.
We use avatars and visual language modeling to simulate how parents teach their children to talk using Microsoft AI.
So a child takes a picture and an avatar describes it.
A little boy.
Just like mom or dad would.
The chatbot offers a unique opportunity to get good at speech and language skills because it'll practice the same thing over and over. Microsoft's AI for Good provided crucial technology that allows people to practice speech and language skills in a natural way.
So we found that pretty remarkable. And for an example dealing with public safety, dating app Bumble used AI to develop protections against a 21st century crisis, unwanted nude photos. And in 2019, their UK arm conducted research to learn that 48% of women ages 18 to 24 had received a non-consensual photo. So they launched something called Private Detector, which is their AI-driven tool to recognize nude photos and give users the ability to give consent. And as part of a larger campaign, they also released an open source version of this AI tool on GitHub. And they've been actively working with legislators in the UK to make online flashing a crime. And actually, in March of 2022, the UK government announced that it would make cyber flashing a criminal offense under its online safety bill. So there's been a lot of examples today. I wanted to offer a couple of takeaways. First being that AI isn't new. It's actually quite ubiquitous and it's evolving pretty quickly. There are new modes to increase your productivity and workflow. There's also truly personalized experiences existing, and they're now possible to make with AI, and they're in high demand by young consumers. You can tap into consumers' interests like Sprite or help personalize their shopping choices through Essence. Also, unimaginable creativity is now a reality, and it's building new worlds. AI is also helping to create a positive impact on a global scale. There's real opportunity to build tools for safety and humanitarian aid, among many other areas. But if you take away nothing else, please remember this. AI is moving fast, but it isn't out of reach. With this new innovation, there's been a lot of fear, but there's also great reasons to be optimistic. We're at the precipice of a game-changing moment for the world, and there's still room to join in. This quote from MIT scientists sums it up. You know, the key to winning the race is not to compete against machines, but to compete with machines. So we invite you to step onto the track and join the race with the best of the internet. Thank you so much, everybody. That does conclude the presentation section of this. I do want to just quickly add that our entries are open until February 9th. So if you are considering submitting work to the Webbies, we'd really love to review your work this season. And if you do have any questions about participating, or you're looking for category recommendations, or just want a little bit more background, I'm always happy to direct you to the right person or talk to you myself. My email is right here. We've also had some great questions about connecting with our partners. So I just wanted to give you their details too. For Canva, who again is our design partner, you can get in touch with Webby. Her email is here. And for any questions about the data, you're welcome to get in touch with Brian at YouGov. Feel free to take a photo of this. If anyone does have any questions, we are all happy to help you. Otherwise, I'd really love to now jump into our Q&A portion with Dan Franks from Podcast Movement.
Hey, Dan. What's going on? Good presentation. I liked it.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I've just been talking for 30 minutes. Now I'm excited to talk to you. I'm really, really thrilled for you to be here. You know, Dan is the driving force behind Podcast Movement, the world's largest podcasting community. He's the co-founder and president, and it's all about bringing podcasters together. PM throws 2 big conferences a year. I've been to them. They're fantastic. Podcast Movement and the Evolutions Conference, and spend the rest of their time on educating and helping to build an even better podcast industry. So let's do just that. You know, I'd love to sort of dig in with you a little bit more about some of the ways that AI tools are helping podcasters. In sort of keeping with our theme today, we'll actually use some Q&A takeaways using Otter AI, which is an AI assistant that records audio and will generate the summary of this conversation. We'll do that at the end. But I guess, Dan, my first question for you is, as a community, you know, as Podcast Movement is a community that educates, informs, and brings together podcasters, I'm curious how you and the organization have seen podcast creators applying AI to their work.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is we've, you know, started seeing probably 4 or 5 years ago is when Descript, which was one of the examples you gave, they really started kind of revolutionizing transcriptions and accessibility for podcasts. And like, that was really cool. And it was like a useful case, but then they started doing some of those text-based audio editing and the synthetic voice and some of that. So it's almost like AI is a buzzword right now, has been for the past year or so. But in terms of like uses in podcasting, it kind of was slowly happening before we really knew that, like, hey, this actually is like artificial intelligence helping us. Yeah. So it's interesting that, you know, now it's a buzzword, and back then it was just kind of like evolution of the space and the technology and the tools. So I think that's the first thing I think of when I think of AI and podcasting, is like what's happening that like we don't even realize maybe it's AI. Another exciting thing I think I mentioned to you earlier before we hopped on was like hardware for podcasters, mixers, smart microphones, a lot of these things that everything was like analog for so many years, and you were twisting knobs and like refining things. And now you press the magic button on your digital mixer that's USB plugged into your computer, and everything that everyone used to have to manually do. Again, that's something that's kind of slowly found its way into audio in general, not just podcasting. But that's like artificial intelligence happening too. So I think that's the first thing I think of when I think of how podcasters are using it. It's just when they're using it, they don't even know.
Right. No, totally. And I think that's something that really sort of came up for me also as we were developing this presentation. The sort of ubiquity of it is so interesting because it does exist in the background, but we may not be thinking about it as something to engage with as present as it is.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, the other thing that I happening in the podcast space and in our community a lot is like using AI, not even for the podcast itself. So like we very much see you know, the podcast staying the same, like better audio maybe, easier editing maybe, but like everything that happens around the podcast. So whether it's preparing your show, you mentioned ChatGPT, like it's so easy now to type a topic and say, hey, give me an outline, like, or I'm interviewing this well-known guest, like tell me what questions I need to ask. So that preparation, as well as the follow-up, and I think we might talk about this a little bit later, but like the marketing materials, the sharing, the recaps, all these things that you used to need a team to do, now you're kind of can be your own team through AI. And I think that's a big piece that we're seeing podcasters do as well.
And I'd love for you to maybe talk about, you know, how this really benefits independent podcast creators. You know, you were mentioning in another chat we had about how AI can really be used as a tool, especially when you don't have a big team. You know, how can sort of these more indie creators be taking advantage of the tools that exist?
Yeah, and that's maybe like the post episode, the post recording, the post production side of things that I think about when I think of this question. And it's okay, podcasters, they spend so much time preparing, whether it's scripting a scripted show or preparing for an interview or just putting talking points together for a conversational show. Then they do the show, they record, then hopefully they're spending time editing it, cleaning up the audio, making a really digestible product. And then they've got no more time left. They've got a day job or they've got client work to work on. So they've got the show now that they put so much time and effort into, but they are falling short of how to share it on social, how to properly write descriptions, how to do SEO friendly titles and keywords and all of these things that they're then gonna attach to that product, that episode, to actually get people to listen to it and help people discover it. And I think that's really where kind of this one person being their own team through AI comes in, is they're able to upload that audio to, a Pod Squeeze or a tool like a Cast Magic is one that I've recently started working on. They're able to upload that audio file and generate all of these things. So as opposed to, okay, now I have to be a graphic designer. Okay, now I have to be a copywriter. Now I have to be really good at writing tweets that are shareable and could, be actionable takeaways from this episode. Now they're able to kind of generate all of those and put them into action, and a little bit of automation, but just a little bit of, that creativity or that effort that otherwise would have been a new team member, would have been hiring a new person, would have been staying up an extra 3 hours or not sleeping that night to get the episode out. So all of those things I think are really crucial, and things that we saw podcasters for years really fall short on. The product is great, but now you're not doing anything to get in front of people or to share it with people. And now that's way more possible with some of these new tools.
I love that. It's so true. I mean, it takes so much blood, sweat, tears, love to make a podcast. And, that takes so much of you. And then to then have to design a website and develop social collateral and really dig through the transcripts, it really feels like there are such great programs that exist now to help you focus on the show.
Yeah, and another thing that really that I as I was thinking about this presentation and thinking about how has AI changed, and this kind of goes back a little bit to the editing and the production aspect and some of these tools that you can use. It used to be, and this was maybe 3-4 years ago, definitely the 10 years since podcast movement's been around, is just getting quality audio was so difficult that you might have the best content, but if your audio didn't sound good, it doesn't matter. You were automatically like kind of dropping out of the fold, and then everyone that was able to figure out how to, produce good audio automatically had a leg up. Now that level playing field, or that playing field is leveled a little bit to where now that quality of audio can come from an iPhone. It can come from a USB microphone. Those weren't options 10 years ago. Now they are. So now I think the quality of the content, not just the audio, is even more important than before, because now everything is listenable, right? You're not going to get offended with your ears because there's Levelator. There's tools to make sure your audio is all, clean. So now, okay, everyone sounds pretty decent. Now let's really, put the emphasis on the quality of the content of the show itself.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how you're seeing AI really being utilized more on the marketing side than maybe like the actual production side? Because I think that's an interesting distinction that I've actually learned from you, is that in your experiences, especially within your community, you're seeing AI really utilized, again, more on the sort of distribution workflow, marketing side of things, and maybe not quite as advanced in terms of, an AI personality being a voice on a podcast, or, I think that sort of dynamic between, AI being the host versus AI helping you be the best host.
Yeah, exactly. So when we think about the way we structure our podcast movement events, we structure them on the creator, the podcaster side, kind of in 3 different pillars, we'll call it. One is creation. So that's kind of the production, the editing, like that piece of it. One's a monetization, and we'll kind of put that to the side. But one of those 3 pillars is like growth and marketing of your show, because that's equally important. If you're going to create the show, you need to find ways to get in front of people. And that's the piece that we really see people struggle with the most. They get into podcast creation, production, because they have this idea for a show. So that's where their heart often is the creation of the show. But then they're like, okay, people tell me I need a website for my show. Okay, how do I make a website for my show, right? I just learned how to make audio. I need to share on social media. I need to create video clips. I need to do all these things. And those things that people with each individual of, creating a website, okay, I got to learn how to do that. All those things used to happen independently of one another, and oftentimes one or more of those would kind of go by the wayside and not happen at all. Now, you upload your podcast feed to a service like Podpage is one that we've used before. You give it your RSS feed. Okay, now it takes your cover art and it creates a website and your color scheme, and it already puts your logo where it should go. And every time you upload a new episode, it's going to add that to the front page of this website. So it's very like, boom, 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 all this stuff starts happening. And then you use other tools where, and maybe some of these tools are built into a tool like Podpage now, where it's like, okay, now when I upload this audio file, it's going to tell me what the best title is going to be. It's going to write my description for me. It's going to potentially layer in the transcripts. If I use a transcription service, it's going to put it in there. It's maybe like something we see people really asking for now are some of those timestamps where, okay, if this, if you had 3 guests on your show, each guest is going to kind of have a timestamp built in. And now this happens like automatically. So all these things that really make episodes more dynamic, more interactive, and more shareable. And then, like I said, even video clips. Some of these tools are going to take your cover art and give you little MP4 files that you can upload to social media. So now you're not just sharing text-based, shareables, but here's a quote from your guest. That's a video file. So all these things that like we've been talking for years about, hey, these are all different techniques to grow your show, because that's the hardest thing to do is grow your show and build an audience, that we've been telling people to do. Now a lot of this stuff can happen once they get everything set up, happen automatically. And, it's almost, I don't want to say foolproof, but like all those gaps in your knowledge and your experience can kind of be filled in if you navigate it properly.
Totally. And are you seeing AI helping with distribution? Do you feel like that's sort of becoming a player in the space or not quite?
Describe what you mean, because you're in the space. Well, you've been in the space. Like, what are you thinking in terms of distribution?
I guess I'm wondering, like, can AI be used as a tool to help you distribute your show, and sort of by either having platforms or creating better ways to export, or just sort of can you start to see AI taking the place of a distributor or a platform?
Yeah, and this kind of goes into like that, what I would consider the gray area of what's AI, what's just like, software development. But like we see a lot of more like all-in-one tools now. Yeah. So it used to be you would pick your media hosting company, and then you would pick all these different elements. And now there's so much in one where you might record your episode, and then it knows like it could do some auto editing, or it could add your show intro and outro to it. And then it's going to point it to all the different directories. You used to have different RSS feeds that you manually submit to each one of those. Now, and that's not AI, but it's like, API type things where these tools are now just making it easier and taking the additional manual steps out of it. Maybe a Spotify show needs to be formatted differently than an Apple Podcast show, and then it's going to potentially help you do that. So again, gray area between like what's AI and what's just, progression and evolution of the space. Yeah. But I would say like, it was crazy 10 years ago when we first started podcast movement, like what it took to get a podcast live. And now it's so much easier. And some view that as like lower barrier of entry, could be lower, quality going out there. But some of it just the way I look at it from a positive standpoint is it's easier now for people with great ideas, great concepts, great creativity, great knowledge to get it out there and share it across the web, across all these different platforms than it ever was before. So that barrier of entry being lowered is actually a positive, not a negative.
Totally. I completely agree. Now, I have one more question, and then I'd love to get some questions from audience, but can you give us any sneak peek of sort of maybe what technology data research will come up for Evolutions in a couple months, or I guess in a month?
2 months, right? It's in March. So we got 2 months. We got about 2 months until Evolutions. And it's interesting. Evolutions is our spinoff event from the flagship podcast movement event. So it happens every March. And the theme of it really is, and this is pretty timely when we decided to do this talk, but it's all about the latest and greatest tools, technology, trends in the audio space on an annual basis. And it's funny, last March when we did it, like AI was just becoming like a buzzword. So everyone tried to like fit the term AI, artificial intelligence, in their sessions, just kind of shoehorn it in there and try to like fit it in where it didn't really fit. But now we're actually seeing some of these like structured tools and techniques, not just like, hey, what software to use, but like how to approach, like, okay, now you have this type of tool at your disposal.
Yeah.
Now how to implement it, not to where you're just saying like, okay, I'm going to let ChatGPT do everything, but like there's ways now to kind of engineer this so it can be, you know, a net positive. So there's going to be a lot of talk about that from the kind of producer and creator side. And then we're also excited about, like, you know, there's been some like speed bumps in the podcast industry over the past year or so. But like there's so much positivity right now. And like just from a, you know, not necessarily the technology side of things, but just from where podcasting is trending, that's going to be a big topic of conversation. And you and I were talking before, like we're both super excited about where audio and where media is heading right now. And I think everything's on an upward trajectory. So, you know, that's not a specific preview about the topic, but we've got, as always, the experts in the field kind of sharing some of that data and research that'll, you know, maybe hadn't even been conducted yet. So in March, it'll be super timely.
Awesome. Really, really great. I now would love to throw to some of our audience questions. Thank you all for participating and sending us some questions. One question we have is, besides the art and entertainment industry, Dan, what's your opinion on AI when it comes to the news? What would be the first regulation we should all support?
Yeah, well, you know, that I don't have quite an opinion on that, but I will say, like, this just triggers an idea in my head that I just read an article about yesterday. This is actually out of Australia, but this is where AI and news are converging a little bit with podcasting. Is there is now this tool, and Acast out of Australia is utilizing it in their shows. But there's the concept of dynamic ad insertion, where every time you play a podcast, you might hear a different ad inserted in real time. And there's this technology now where if you're a news website, you can basically buy these dynamically inserted ads. And this tool, right before the ad is injected into the episode that people are listening to, it goes, scrapes that news website, determines what the top news story is, and then a synthetic voice reads a 15-second ad read basically for that website, for that news piece. And it's just all happening automatically. So now as a news publisher, you just continue to put the news out on your website as you normally would, knowing that, hey, we've got this AI running in the background that's going to scrape the website, decide what the top news is. Maybe it's a sports podcast, so it's going to scrape the sports page, or a business podcast going to scrape the business page. And that artificial intelligence is doing all the determination of what the news is, how to make that into the best 15-second ad read, and then actually creating the voice and putting it in the podcast as well. So that's not necessarily like how do we, you know, put safeguards in what news is, you know, being generated by, but it's like kind of where all these things converge.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's, news is an interesting space, and I'm curious to see how that evolves as well, especially with editorial insight. You know, I think one thing that came up a lot for our presentation was, again, this idea of it being a tool, right? Not a replacement, but something to sort of aid, you know, the creatives and the makers. And so I think that probably is the same for journalists as well. I have another question. Kind words. Thanks for doing this. It's an odd one to verbalize, but I was wondering if you have any thoughts on the part of my brain that is essentially old man shakes stick at kids when it comes to getting excited by how accessible really high-end results can now be with AI. How do I keep being excited rather than threatened by AI as more and more of my skill set becomes 1 or 2 clicks away?
Yeah, so this, and you know, old man, old woman is kind of is a moving scale, right? We can all determine how, you know, how old we are, you know, internally and externally. But I very much, when, like I said, about a year ago, when this whole AI thing really started bubbling up to the surface, I was very much like, I'm going to let it pass, like kind of like I was with NFTs when they were a thing. Like, I'm going to let it pass. I'm not going to learn it. I'm not going to try it. A year from now, it's going to be gone. I hosted a local meetup here in Dallas, and we had Larry Roberts is our speaker. He's a podcast guy that's got into AI. He was giving presentations about it. And even like he was presenting in front of us, and I was like, I'm not going to pay attention to this, right? Like the people want to hear it, so we're putting it out there. But like, and like, eventually I think you just kind of try it and you figure out, hey, this is actually like a useful tool. It can be a dangerous tool, like I said, in the sense of like, you can try to make it do everything, or you can try to have it make decisions for you. And like that could happen, right? This thing will kind of go and, you know, take your idea and run with it if you're not careful, and say things you're not, you know, you're not wanting to say, or kind of put ideas into your head that maybe it's like, why is this computer, you know, telling me something that I maybe know more about anyways? But like just utilizing it, I've kind of figured out, okay, there's my threshold for how much I'm going to ask it to do for me versus like me then taking that idea and then putting my own spin on it. So I don't know if that quite answers the question, but like my personal experience has really been like, hey, I don't want to do this. I kind of like the way things are. I kind of like Googling versus like asking ChatGPT. And then like now I find myself, like many others, like utilizing ChatGPT more than Google because it's, provides more in-depth, more robust answers and solutions. So to me, it's just about like giving it a try and just managing those, expectations and how you utilize it.
Amazing. Thank you. One final question for you, Dan. What is your favorite podcast right now? What are you listening to?
Okay.
Are you allowed to, is that a conflict of interest? Can you tell us your favorite?
Yes, because I am like really into wrestling, professional wrestling. It's been a hobby of mine forever, or a hobby of mine in like following it. And also my background is I'm an accountant. I was a CPA for years before going full-time with Podcast Movement. And there's this one podcast, it's called WrestleNomics, and it combines the business side of professional wrestling, which is like a huge thing. And just today, the WWE, which is the largest wrestling promotion in the world, signed a deal to go exclusive on Netflix. So for 30 years, they've been on cable, USA Network, on Fox, and now their flagship show starting in 2025 is going to be streamed exclusively on Netflix. Which I think is Netflix's first kind of foray into live episodic television type thing. And so like that's kind of got me like, okay, what's all the business happening behind this? So anyways, I'm a Patreon supporter. So I've got my WrestleNomics mug here that I was drinking out of just to kind of celebrate this big day for them and their podcast. And I like shows that like from a like being proud of creator standpoint, shows where like they kind of just go and bubble under the surface, and then something like this happens, some inflection point like this happens in the news or in the real world, we'll call it, where now everyone's going to be rushing and discovering this new show, and then they're going to have that new audience that's going to like carry them, and like they're not controlling any of this news, they're just kind of reacting to it. But things like this, the show just being there and having established itself for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, now can benefit from this type of news type thing. So it's super exciting. So that's the reason why right now I'm calling that my favorite podcast.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, and it's going to gain this whole new audience. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I thought just to end, we would do these fun takeaways that we summarized using AI. There are 4. First is AI is your new podcasting sidekick. Tools like Descript and Otter, I guess they're a little biased, can help with transcriptions so you don't have to. More time for coming up with your next big idea. Number 2, podcasting level up unlocked. Advanced audio editing and automatic show notes used to require a whole team. Now you can be a podcasting powerhouse all by yourself with AI superpowers. It's fun. Consider it your AI superpower. 3, a podcast promotion party. AI takes care of sharing on social, designing graphics, and more. More time for you to kick back and enjoy listening to all your new fans discover your show. And 4, podcasting's future is bright. This one I think Dan and I can both attest to. Dan is excited about where the podcasting industry is headed. With continuous improvements in AI and tools, it will be easier than ever for creators to focus on the creative process and share their unique voices with the world. The best is yet to come.
I love it.
Love it.
I think that AI nailed it.
I do too. Thank you. Thank you to Otter AI. Thank you to you, Dan. It's been such a treat having you. And thanks to all of you for joining us. If you have any other questions about what we did today, please feel to reach out to us. And we hope to see you on the internet soon.
Thanks, everyone.